The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Adelaide Cottage as Catherine Wales stood before her dressing room mirror, her reflection showing a woman who had grown into her role as Princess of Wales with quiet confidence. The ivory silk gown hanging nearby seemed to shimmer with anticipation for the evening ahead. Today marked a significant moment in her royal journey, the first major state banquet where she would stand as the senior female member of the royal family alongside King Charles and Prince William. Her lady-in-waiting, Sarah, carefully arranged the morning's correspondence on the mahogany desk. Among the usual stack of invitations and thank you notes lay a handwritten letter from King Charles himself, expressing his gratitude for her dedication to royal duties and his excitement about her prominent role in tonight's diplomatic gathering. The Emir of Qatar's state visit represented months of careful planning, and Catherine's involvement in the cultural exchanges had been particularly noteworthy. Catherine moved gracefully to the window, watching as gardeners tended to the autumn roses that would soon provide flowers for tonight's table arrangements. Her mind wandered to the conversation she'd had with William just days before. He had spoken with pride about how naturally she had embraced the responsibilities that came with her title, particularly her ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Tonight would test that skill on an international stage. The morning routine began with her usual breakfast of fresh fruit and Earl Grey tea, followed by a briefing from her private secretary about the evening's protocol. The guest list read like a who's who of British society: cabinet ministers, foreign dignitaries, business leaders, and cultural figures. Each name carried weight. Each conversation would matter. Catherine had spent weeks studying the backgrounds of key guests, understanding their interests and achievements. Her children's laughter echoed from the garden where they played under the watchful eye of their nanny. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis had grown accustomed to their mother's royal obligations, but they still sought her attention whenever possible. Catherine made time for a quick game of football with them. Her designer workout clothes a stark contrast to the formal attire that awaited her later. The afternoon brought a final dress rehearsal of sorts. Catherine met with the palace's protocol officer to review the evening's timeline. She would greet guests alongside William and King Charles, participate in receiving lines, and engage in carefully orchestrated conversations throughout the dinner. Her role extended beyond mere presence. She was expected to be a cultural ambassador, representing modern British values while honoring traditional royal customs. Hair and makeup preparations began at 3 o'clock. Catherine's longtime stylist worked methodically, creating an elegant updo that would complement the tiara she would wear, a piece from Queen Elizabeth's collection that held special significance. The process was meditative, allowing Catherine time to center herself for the evening ahead. She thought about her journey from a middle-class family in Berkshire to this moment of international prominence. The ivory gown, designed by one of Britain's most celebrated fashion houses, represented months of collaboration. Every detail had been considered, from the sustainable silk sourcing to the subtle incorporation of Welsh symbols in the embroidery. Catherine understood that her fashion choices would be scrutinized globally, each selection carrying diplomatic and cultural weight. Tonight's ensemble needed to project elegance, accessibility, and respect for both British tradition and Qatari customs. As afternoon transitioned to early evening, William arrived to accompany her to Buckingham Palace. His presence brought immediate calm to Catherine's pre-event energy. They had developed a partnership that extended far beyond their marriage, a professional synchronicity that made them effective royal representatives. William's experience and Catherine's natural warmth created a dynamic that palace officials had come to rely upon. The drive through London's streets reminded Catherine of the weight of public expectation. Photographers lined the route, hoping for glimpses of the evening's key figures. She waved graciously while maintaining the composure that had become her trademark. The city seemed to buzz with anticipation for the diplomatic gathering that would unfold within palace walls. Buckingham Palace appeared magnificent in the early evening light, its facade illuminated for the occasion. Red carpets stretched across courtyards, and security personnel moved with quiet efficiency. Catherine felt the familiar thrill of arriving at the palace for a major event, a mixture of privilege and responsibility that she had learned to embrace rather than be overwhelmed by. Inside the palace, final preparations were underway. Florists made last-minute adjustments to centerpieces, while kitchen staff put finishing touches on the evening's elaborate menu. The state dining room had been transformed into a showcase of British hospitality, with crystal glasses catching light from historic chandeliers and gold-rimmed china reflecting centuries of royal tradition. King Charles appeared in full ceremonial dress, his demeanor reflecting both the gravity and celebration of the occasion. He greeted Catherine warmly, expressing appreciation for her preparation and dedication. Their relationship had evolved into one of mutual respect and genuine affection, built through shared commitment to royal service. Tonight would mark another milestone in her development as a senior royal. The receiving rooms filled gradually with palace staff, making final preparations. Catherine took a moment to appreciate the historical significance of her surroundings. These walls had witnessed countless diplomatic encounters, royal celebrations, and moments that shaped British history. Now she stood ready to contribute her own chapter to that ongoing story. Protocol officers briefed the royal party one final time on the evening sequence. Catherine would enter the state dining room on William's arm, following King Charles and preceding other senior royals. Her seat at the high table would place her in conversation range of the emir and other distinguished guests. Every gesture, every word would be observed and analyzed by diplomatic professionals and media representatives alike. The first guests began arriving as evening descended fully upon London. Catherine could hear the distant sounds of cars arriving, doors closing, and voices greeting security personnel. Soon, the palace would fill with the international gathering that had been months in planning. Her role in welcoming these guests represented a significant step in her royal evolution. Standing before a mirror in the private apartments, Catherine adjusted her tiara one final time. The diamonds caught light brilliantly, but she focused more on the woman wearing them than the jewels themselves. She had grown into this role gradually, learning to balance accessibility with dignity, warmth with protocol. Tonight would test every lesson learned over years of royal service. William appeared beside her in the mirror's reflection, resplendent in his formal military dress. Together, they represented the modern face of an ancient institution, carrying forward traditions while adapting to contemporary expectations. Their partnership had become central to the royal family's public image, and tonight would showcase that collaboration on an international stage. The moment approached for them to join King Charles in the palace's formal receiving areas. Catherine felt ready, prepared by experience, supported by her husband, and confident in her ability to represent Britain with grace and authenticity. The evening that would become known as Catherine's Night to Remember was about to begin, though she couldn't yet know how significantly it would mark her emergence as a truly global royal figure. The Grand Hall of Buckingham Palace buzzed with anticipation as Catherine descended the crimson-carpeted staircase alongside William. The sound of her heels clicking against marble steps created a rhythm that seemed to announce her arrival to the assembled guests below. Diplomatic personnel, dressed in their finest evening wear, turned their attention toward the royal couple whose entrance marked the formal beginning of the evening's festivities. Catherine's ivory gown flowed elegantly as she moved, the careful construction allowing for graceful movement while maintaining regal bearing. She had practiced this entrance countless times, but tonight felt different, more significant somehow. The weight of representing Britain on such an important diplomatic occasion pressed gently upon her consciousness, a reminder of how far her role had evolved since becoming Princess of Wales. King Charles stood at the center of the receiving area, his presence commanding natural respect from the gathered dignitaries. His years of diplomatic experience showed in every gesture as he greeted early arrivals with warmth and appropriate protocol. Catherine watched him work the room, noting how he balanced formality with genuine interest in each guest. These were skills she continued to develop under his guidance and example. The Emir of Qatar's arrival created a subtle shift in the room's energy. His entourage moved with quiet efficiency, while British protocol officers ensured every detail of his welcome adhered to carefully planned specifications. Catherine positioned herself strategically to participate in the formal greeting, understanding that her presence alongside King Charles and William would be noted by diplomatic observers and media representatives present. As introductions proceeded, Catherine found herself engaging with Qatar's Minister of Culture, a sophisticated woman whose passion for arts education immediately resonated with the princess's own charitable interests. Their conversation flowed naturally from formal pleasantries to genuine discussion about youth development programs and cultural exchange initiatives. Catherine's ability to connect with people from diverse backgrounds served her well in these diplomatic settings. The receiving line continued for nearly an hour as guests arrived in carefully orchestrated waves. Catherine greeted each person with authentic interest, drawing upon weeks of preparation about their backgrounds and achievements. A renowned British architect found himself discussing sustainable building practices with the princess, while a prominent businesswoman shared insights about women's leadership initiatives that clearly captured Catherine's attention. Throughout these interactions, palace photographers captured moments that would later appear in official records and international media coverage. Catherine had learned to remain natural despite constant documentation, treating cameras as invisible observers rather than performative opportunities. Her genuine engagement with guests created authentic images that would serve British diplomatic interests long after the evening ended. The transition from receiving guests to dinner itself required careful choreography. Catherine moved through the palace's historic corridors alongside other members of the royal family, each step bringing them closer to the state dining room where the evening's main event would unfold. The sound of conversation and laughter indicated that guests had begun to relax into the evening's festivities. Entering the state dining room took Catherine's breath away despite her familiarity with palace grandeur. Tonight's arrangements surpassed typical standards. Crystal glasses caught light from overhead chandeliers while gold and ivory table settings created an atmosphere of refined elegance. Fresh flowers from the palace gardens provided subtle fragrance that complemented rather than competed with the room's natural magnificence. Catherine's assigned seat placed her strategically between a senior cabinet minister and Qatar's ambassador to the United Kingdom, positioning her perfectly for meaningful diplomatic conversation throughout the meal. She understood that her role extended beyond mere presence. She was expected to facilitate dialogue, share insights about British culture, and learn about Qatari perspectives on issues of mutual interest. The first course arrived as conversations settled into comfortable rhythms around the table. Catherine found herself discussing education policy with the ambassador, whose children attended British universities. Their exchange revealed shared concerns about preparing young people for rapidly changing global economies while preserving cultural values and traditions. These were topics close to Catherine's heart through her charitable work with youth organizations. Wine service provided opportunities for toasts and formal acknowledgments that punctuated the meal's progression. King Charles spoke eloquently about British-Qatari friendship, while the emir responded with gracious remarks about shared interests in cultural preservation and sustainable development. Catherine listened carefully to both speeches, understanding how diplomatic language conveyed deeper meanings about international relationships. Between courses, conversations shifted naturally as guests engaged with different neighbors. Catherine found herself speaking with a prominent Qatari businesswoman about women's roles in economic development, a topic that allowed the princess to share insights from her own experiences supporting female entrepreneurs through royal patronages. Their discussion attracted attention from nearby guests who contributed additional perspectives. The main course featured British lamb prepared with Middle Eastern influences, representing the evening's theme of cultural bridge building through cuisine. Catherine complimented the palace chef's creativity while discussing with her dinner companions how food traditions could serve diplomatic purposes. These seemingly casual conversations carried weight in international relationship building that extended far beyond the evening itself. As dinner progressed, Catherine noticed how naturally she had settled into her role as senior royal hostess. Her earlier nervousness had transformed into confident engagement with guests whose backgrounds spanned multiple continents and cultures. The months of preparation for this evening had prepared her well for conversations that ranged from art history to economic policy to environmental conservation. Entertainment during the meal featured performances by British and Qatari artists, showcasing the cultural exchange that formed the visit's foundation. Catherine applauded enthusiastically while engaging guests in discussion about the importance of arts education and cultural diplomacy. Her genuine appreciation for the performances created opportunities for meaningful conversation about shared values across different societies. The formal dining portion of the evening concluded with coffee and petit fours served alongside continued conversation that had grown increasingly relaxed as guests became comfortable with one another. Catherine moved gracefully between different groups, ensuring that all guests felt welcomed and valued. Her ability to remember personal details about individuals she had met only hours before impressed diplomatic professionals present. As the evening transitioned toward its conclusion, Catherine reflected on how smoothly the complex event had proceeded. Every protocol had been observed, every guest had been properly honored, and meaningful connections had been established between British and Qatari representatives. Her role in facilitating these interactions marked a significant milestone in her development as a senior royal. The receiving area where guests gathered for final farewells buzzed with positive energy as attendees expressed appreciation for the evening's hospitality. Catherine participated in these concluding interactions alongside King Charles and William, forming a royal triumvirate that represented continuity between past, present, and future monarchy. Their coordinated efforts to thank guests and extend future invitations demonstrated the family's united commitment to international relationships. Photography sessions captured final moments as official gifts were exchanged and future meetings were planned. Catherine's presence in these images would appear in newspapers and diplomatic records worldwide, cementing her emergence as a significant figure in contemporary royal representation. The evening that had begun with careful preparation was concluding with natural confidence and grace. As the last guest departed into London's night air, Catherine felt a deep satisfaction with the evening's success. She had represented Britain honorably, formed meaningful connections with international guests, and supported important diplomatic objectives through her participation. Most significantly, she had done so with authenticity and grace that honored both royal traditions and contemporary expectations for accessible leadership. The private reception room of Buckingham Palace filled with intimate conversation as the formal dinner transitioned into a more relaxed gathering. Catherine found herself at the center of a diverse group that included Qatar's Minister of Education, several British parliamentarians, and renowned cultural figures from both nations. The atmosphere had shifted from diplomatic formality to genuine intellectual exchange, allowing personalities to emerge beyond their official roles. Catherine's earlier conversation with the education minister had sparked interest from other guests who gathered to discuss innovative approaches to youth development. She shared insights from her recent visits to schools implementing mental health programs, while the minister described Qatar's initiatives in STEM education for girls. Their dialogue attracted contributions from a British tech entrepreneur and a Qatari university administrator, creating a mini-symposium on educational innovation. The princess noticed how naturally these cross-cultural conversations developed when people discovered shared passions and concerns. Her role seemed less about following protocol and more about facilitating genuine connection between individuals who might otherwise never meet. This realization energized her participation as she moved between different discussion groups throughout the reception area. A prominent Qatari artist approached Catherine with enthusiasm about her support for British arts education programs. Their conversation revealed surprising connections between traditional Islamic geometric patterns and contemporary British textile design, subjects that captivated nearby guests, including a museum director and several cultural attaches. Catherine's genuine curiosity about artistic traditions, she was unfamiliar with, created space for meaningful cultural exchange. William appeared at her side during a brief lull in conversation, his presence immediately drawing additional guests into their circle. Together, they formed an effective partnership in hosting duties, with William's diplomatic experience complementing Catherine's natural warmth and accessibility. Their coordinated efforts to ensure all guests felt included demonstrated the teamwork that had become central to their royal responsibilities. King Charles moved through the reception with masterful ease, engaging various groups while maintaining awareness of the overall event's flow. Catherine observed his technique of asking thoughtful questions that encouraged others to share their expertise and experiences. These skills had taken years to develop, and she appreciated the opportunity to watch him work in such a high-stakes diplomatic environment. The evening's most memorable moment emerged during a conversation about environmental sustainability that spontaneously developed between Catherine and several Qatari officials. Her passion for environmental causes, particularly those affecting children's futures, resonated strongly with their nation's significant investments in renewable energy and conservation. What began as polite inquiry evolved into substantial discussion about potential collaboration opportunities. A breakthrough occurred when Catherine mentioned her patronage of environmental education programs in British schools. The Qatari ambassador's wife revealed her own work establishing school gardens in Doha, leading to animated discussion about children's connection to nature in urban environments. Their shared commitment to environmental education created an immediate bond that transcended cultural and geographical differences. This conversation attracted attention from other guests, including British environmental scientists and Qatari sustainability researchers who contributed technical insights to what had become an impromptu roundtable discussion. Catherine found herself facilitating dialogue between experts who discovered mutual interests in climate adaptation strategies and youth environmental leadership programs. The spontaneous nature of this discussion exemplified what Catherine had hoped to achieve through the evening: genuine connection that could lead to meaningful collaboration. She exchanged contact information with several participants, understanding that tonight's conversations might plant seeds for future partnerships that could benefit both nations and the global environmental movement. As the reception continued, Catherine noticed increased media attention focusing on her interactions with guests. International journalists and diplomatic observers had clearly identified her as a central figure in the evening's success. Rather than feeling pressure from this scrutiny, she drew energy from the positive responses her efforts were generating among the assembled dignitaries. The Queen Consort Camilla joined Catherine's environmental discussion group, bringing her own perspectives on sustainable living and traditional crafts preservation. Their combined presence elevated the conversation's profile while maintaining its authentic character. Catherine appreciated how seamlessly Camilla integrated into discussions while supporting her newer family members' diplomatic efforts. Photography opportunities arose naturally as groups continued their conversations, with official palace photographers capturing candid moments that would later appear in international media coverage. Catherine had learned to remain authentic during these documented interactions, understanding that genuine engagement created better images than posed formality. Her natural expressions and animated conversations produced photographs that effectively conveyed the evening's positive atmosphere. A particularly engaging discussion developed around women's leadership in both British and Qatari contexts. Catherine found herself sharing experiences from her charitable work supporting female entrepreneurs while learning about Qatari women's expanding roles in business and government. These conversations revealed shared challenges and opportunities that transcended cultural boundaries. The Minister of Culture from Qatar approached Catherine with specific questions about her arts patronages, leading to detailed discussion about community-based cultural programs and their social benefits. Catherine's knowledge of these topics, gained through hands-on experience with numerous charitable organizations, impressed the minister and other listening guests who hadn't expected such detailed expertise from a royal family member. This interaction highlighted how Catherine's years of charitable work had prepared her for exactly these types of diplomatic conversations. Her ability to discuss specific programs, measurable outcomes, and practical challenges gave substance to what might otherwise have been superficial diplomatic pleasantries. International guests responded positively to her informed perspectives and genuine commitment to social causes. Entertainment continued throughout the reception with performances by emerging artists from both nations, providing natural conversation starters about cultural exchange and artistic collaboration. Catherine engaged enthusiastically with both performers and fellow guests about the importance of supporting young talent and facilitating international artistic partnerships. The evening's energy remained high as conversations multiplied throughout the reception areas. Catherine moved skillfully between different groups, ensuring that all guests felt valued while maintaining her own authentic engagement with topics that genuinely interested her. Her natural curiosity about other people's work and experiences served her well in these diverse interactions. A memorable exchange occurred when Catherine met a group of young Qatari professionals visiting London for the state visit. Their enthusiasm for British education and culture, combined with pride in their own nation's rapid development, created opportunities for Catherine to discuss youth leadership and international understanding. These conversations reinforced her belief in the importance of investing in young people's global perspectives. The reception's conclusion approached as guests began forming smaller circles for final conversations and farewells. Catherine participated in these concluding interactions while reflecting on the evening's unexpected developments. What had begun as a formal diplomatic obligation had evolved into genuinely meaningful exchanges that exceeded her most optimistic expectations. Palace staff began subtle preparations for guest departures while maintaining the relaxed atmosphere that had characterized the reception's latter portions. Catherine continued her conversations while remaining alert to protocol requirements for concluding the evening appropriately. Her ability to balance authenticity with royal obligations had become second nature through years of experience. As she prepared for the evening's final phase, Catherine felt deep satisfaction with her contributions to the diplomatic gathering. She had represented Britain effectively while remaining true to her own values and interests. Most importantly, She had facilitated connections between people from different cultures who discovered shared commitments to education, environment, and social progress. The grand staircase of Buckingham Palace served as the backdrop for formal farewells as guests prepared to depart into London's crisp night air. Catherine positioned herself alongside King Charles and William, forming the royal receiving line that would bid goodbye to each departing dignitary with appropriate ceremony. The warmth generated during the evening's reception had created an atmosphere where formal protocol felt natural rather than forced. Individual guests approached the royal trio with expressions of genuine appreciation for the evening's hospitality. Catherine found herself engaging in brief but meaningful exchanges with people who had become more than diplomatic contacts during the preceding hours. The Qatari Minister of Education pressed a handwritten note into her hand, containing details about potential educational exchange programs they had discussed during dinner. A particularly touching moment occurred when the young Qatari professionals she had met during the reception approached for their farewell. Their enthusiasm for the connections made during the evening was evident in their animated expressions of gratitude. Catherine exchanged contact information with several of them, understanding that tonight's conversations might develop into lasting friendships that transcended diplomatic boundaries. The British guests also expressed appreciation for Catherine's role in facilitating meaningful international dialogue. A prominent businesswoman mentioned how the princess's environmental passion had inspired new thinking about corporate sustainability initiatives. These comments reinforced Catherine's growing confidence in her ability to influence positive change through royal platform utilization. Media representatives captured final images of the departing guests, with Catherine's gracious farewell interactions creating compelling visuals that would appear in international coverage of the state visit. Her natural warmth during these concluding moments provided photographers with authentic images that effectively conveyed the evening's diplomatic success. International journalists approached palace press officers with requests for additional information about Catherine's expanding role in diplomatic hosting. Her performance during the evening had clearly impressed professional observers who recognized skillful relationship building when they witnessed it. These positive assessments would contribute to growing international recognition of her capabilities. As the formal farewells continued, Catherine reflected on specific conversations that had exceeded her expectations for the evening. The spontaneous environmental discussion that had developed during the reception remained particularly vivid in her memory. The genuine enthusiasm shown by Qatari officials for potential collaboration had created possibilities that extended far beyond tonight's ceremonial obligations. Palace staff worked efficiently to coordinate guest departures while maintaining the dignified atmosphere that had characterized the entire evening. Catherine appreciated their professionalism in managing complex logistics while allowing natural interactions between departing guests and royal hosts. These behind-the-scenes efforts made possible the seamless experience that guests would remember. The final group of departing guests included several cultural figures whose conversations with Catherine had revealed shared interests in arts education and community development programs. Their exchange of future collaboration ideas suggested that tonight's diplomatic gathering might generate practical outcomes beyond its symbolic importance for British-Qatari relations. King Charles expressed quiet satisfaction with the evening's success as the last official guests departed. His confidence in Catherine's diplomatic abilities had been validated by her natural performance throughout the complex event. The partnership between experienced royal guidance and contemporary accessibility had proven effective in advancing British interests while maintaining authentic personal connections. William's pride in Catherine's contributions was evident in his supportive presence throughout the farewell proceedings. Their collaborative hosting approach had created an atmosphere where formal diplomatic requirements were fulfilled without sacrificing genuine human connection. This balance represented exactly what modern royal representation needed to achieve in contemporary international relations. The transition from public event to private reflection occurred gradually as palace staff began clearing reception areas and returning the state dining room to its normal configuration. Catherine remained with King Charles and William for informal debriefing about the evening's highlights and any areas requiring follow-up attention for future diplomatic events. Private conversations among family members revealed universal satisfaction with how smoothly the complex evening had proceeded. Catherine's concerns about her readiness for such prominent diplomatic hosting had proven unfounded as she naturally adapted to each situation that arose. Her authentic engagement with diverse guests had created exactly the atmosphere desired for effective relationship building. The most significant outcome emerging from evening discussions was recognition that Catherine had established herself as a valuable diplomatic asset for Britain. Her ability to connect with people from different cultures while advancing specific policy interests suggested expanded future roles in international relationship building. This realization marked an important milestone in her royal development. Palace officials began preliminary planning for follow-up activities related to connections made during the evening. Several guests had extended invitations for Catherine to visit Qatar, while others proposed hosting Qatari delegations in Britain for continued dialogue about shared interests. These potential developments would require careful coordination between royal schedules and diplomatic priorities. Catherine's personal reflection on the evening focused on lessons learned about international hosting and cross-cultural communication. Her preparation had proven adequate for managing formal requirements, but the spontaneous connections that developed had taught her valuable lessons about authentic diplomacy that no amount of briefing could provide. The environmental collaboration possibilities that had emerged during her conversations represented particularly exciting opportunities for future engagement. Catherine's passion for environmental causes had found receptive audiences among Qatari officials who shared concerns about climate impact on future generations. These shared values provided solid foundation for meaningful partnership development. Media analysis of the evening began appearing in early morning news coverage as international journalists filed reports about the state banquet's diplomatic significance. Catherine's prominent role in facilitating meaningful dialogue received positive attention that would enhance her international profile and credibility as a royal representative. The practical implications of the evening's success extended beyond immediate diplomatic benefits to longer-term relationship-building opportunities. Catherine had demonstrated capabilities that suggested expanded future involvement in state visits, official tours, and bilateral relationship development between Britain and allied nations worldwide. As the evening transitioned into late-night reflection, Catherine appreciated how naturally she had adapted to the complex demands of senior royal hosting. Her concerns about protocol and diplomatic requirements had given way to confidence based on successful navigation of challenging international relationship-building scenarios. The personal satisfaction derived from meaningful connections made during the evening reinforced Catherine's commitment to using her royal platform for positive impact. Her ability to facilitate dialogue between people from different backgrounds while advancing British interests had proven both personally fulfilling and professionally significant for her expanding royal role. Final palace security procedures began as staff completed evening cleanup while maintaining discretion about royal family private time. Catherine's successful navigation of her most prominent diplomatic hosting responsibility marked a significant milestone in her development as a senior royal family member capable of independent representation of British interests. The transformation from careful preparation to confident execution had occurred naturally throughout the evening as Catherine adapted to each new situation with grace and authenticity. Her performance had exceeded even optimistic expectations while establishing foundation for expanded future diplomatic engagement on behalf of British interests worldwide. The quiet corridors of Buckingham Palace echoed with diminishing footsteps as the last staff members completed their evening duties. Catherine walked slowly through the now empty state dining room, her heels creating soft sounds against polished floors that had witnessed countless historic gatherings. The elaborate table settings had been cleared away, but the room still held traces of the evening's energy, the lingering fragrance of fresh flowers, and the subtle warmth that remained from hours of animated conversation. Standing alone in the grand space where she had just hosted one of the most significant diplomatic events of her royal career, Catherine reflected on the transformation that had occurred within these walls. What began as carefully planned protocol had evolved into genuine human connection that transcended cultural boundaries and formal diplomatic requirements. The evening had exceeded everyone's expectations, including her own. Her phone buzzed quietly with the first wave of international media coverage beginning to appear online. Headlines praised the success of the state banquet, while specifically noting Catherine's emerging role as a diplomatic force within the royal family. These early assessments validated her growing confidence in representing British interests on the global stage while maintaining her authentic approach to relationship building. The ivory gown that had seemed so formal hours earlier now felt like a natural extension of her royal identity. Catherine had grown comfortable with the weight of representing centuries of British tradition while adapting those customs to contemporary diplomatic requirements. Tonight had proven that tradition and modernity could complement rather than conflict with each other. William appeared in the doorway, having completed his own post-event responsibilities with palace officials. His smile conveyed pride and satisfaction with how seamlessly they had worked together to create an atmosphere of genuine hospitality within formal diplomatic constraints. Their partnership had evolved into an effective team approach that served British interests while reflecting their shared values. Together, they reviewed the evening's highlights while walking through palace corridors toward their private apartments. Catherine shared her excitement about specific conversations that had revealed unexpected collaboration opportunities, particularly the environmental initiatives that had captured attention from multiple Qatari officials. These connections suggested possibilities for meaningful partnership development beyond tonight's ceremonial significance. King Charles joined them for informal debriefing about the evening's diplomatic outcomes. His experience provided valuable perspective on how tonight's relationship building might influence longer-term British-Qatari cooperation across various policy areas. Catherine listened carefully to his analysis while contributing her own observations about guest reactions and potential follow-up opportunities. The conversation revealed universal recognition that Catherine had established herself as a capable diplomatic host whose authentic approach to international relationship building complemented traditional royal representation methods. Her ability to facilitate genuine dialogue while advancing British interests suggested expanded future roles in state visits and bilateral relationship development. Palace press officers reported overwhelmingly positive initial media coverage from international journalists who had observed the evening's proceedings. Catherine's performance had impressed professional diplomatic observers who recognized skilled relationship building when they witnessed it. These assessments would contribute to growing international recognition of her capabilities as a senior royal representative. Personal messages began arriving from guests expressing appreciation for the evening's hospitality and Catherine's particular role in creating meaningful connections between diverse attendees. The Qatari ambassador's wife sent a handwritten note praising Catherine's environmental passion and proposing specific collaboration opportunities between British and Qatari educational institutions. The young Qatari professionals she had met during the reception had already begun social media posts expressing enthusiasm for connections made during the evening. Their genuine excitement about cultural exchange possibilities reinforced Catherine's belief in the importance of investing in young people's international perspectives and cross-cultural understanding. As midnight approached, Catherine began the process of transitioning from public representative back to private individual. The tiara that had felt so significant hours earlier was carefully removed and returned to palace security, while her gown was entrusted to wardrobe staff for professional cleaning and storage. These physical transformations marked the conclusion of her most prominent diplomatic hosting experience. Private reflection time allowed Catherine to process the evening's emotional and professional significance. She had successfully represented Britain while remaining true to her own values and interests, creating authentic connections with international guests who responded positively to her genuine approach to cross-cultural dialogue and relationship building. The practical implications of the evening's success extended far beyond immediate diplomatic benefits. Catherine had demonstrated capabilities that positioned her for expanded involvement in international relationship building, state visits, and bilateral cooperation development between Britain and allied nations worldwide. Her environmental conversations during the evening had revealed particularly promising opportunities for meaningful collaboration that could generate practical benefits for both nations while advancing global sustainability goals. The enthusiasm shown by Qatari officials for partnership development suggested genuine possibilities for productive ongoing engagement. Early morning news coverage continued arriving throughout the night as international media analyzed the state banquet's diplomatic significance. Catherine's prominent role in facilitating meaningful dialogue received consistent positive attention that would enhance her international profile and credibility as a royal representative capable of independent diplomatic engagement. The personal satisfaction derived from authentic connections made during the evening reinforced Catherine's commitment to using her royal platform for positive global impact. Her success in balancing formal diplomatic requirements with genuine human interaction had proven both personally fulfilling and professionally significant for her expanding royal responsibilities. Palace officials began preliminary coordination for potential follow-up activities related to connections made during the evening. Several invitations for Catherine to visit Qatar had emerged, while Qatari delegates expressed interest in touring British institutions related to educational and environmental programs she had discussed during dinner conversations. The transformation from nervous preparation to confident execution had occurred naturally throughout the evening as Catherine adapted to each diplomatic challenge with grace and authenticity. Her performance had established foundation for expanded future engagement, while proving that modern royal representation could effectively advance British interests through genuine relationship building. As dawn approached over London, Catherine prepared for sleep with deep satisfaction about her contributions to British diplomatic efforts. The evening that began with careful protocol had concluded with meaningful international connections that could influence positive outcomes for years to come. Her emergence as a significant diplomatic asset for Britain had been confirmed through successful navigation of complex international relationship-building requirements. The night to remember had become exactly that, a milestone evening that marked Catherine's full emergence as a confident, capable representative of British values and interests on the global stage. Her authentic approach to cross-cultural dialogue had proven that royal tradition could adapt effectively to contemporary diplomatic needs while maintaining its essential character and effectiveness. Tomorrow would bring new responsibilities and opportunities to build upon tonight's success. But, for now, Catherine rested in the knowledge that she had represented her nation honorably while remaining true to her own principles. The princess who had entered the evening with careful preparation was concluding it with well-earned confidence in her abilities as a senior member of the royal family capable of independent diplomatic achievement.